So we got a question from Sonja, who is a white belt, and she has been training for a little while. And during this quarantine thing that's going on, she's been training with her boyfriend, who's a 2-stripe blue belt. So she's able to learn some more jiu-jitsu and continue training even when this thing's going on, which is a good thing, right? But she's wondering if I have any tips on training with a significant other, because, you know, she was wondering, one, from the teaching side of it, is there anything that he should be doing teaching her, you know, to help her learn things? Because she says she has a lot of trouble retaining all the information that he feels like she should have. But likewise, she wants to be a good training partner and student for him because she's, you know, not up to the same skill and strength level that he's used to. So she's wondering if I have any tips on that. And so, Sonja, thank you so much for the question. And, you know, teaching and training your significant other, it sounds like it should be so easy, right? Like, oh, you've got someone you can train with, it's going to be great. But a lot of times it's not. Like, I remember years ago, like, getting, like, my girlfriends at the time, my ex-girlfriends, they would come into the gym and they would always want to see what I was doing. Because, again, I'm in this place sometimes 4 hours a day. They're like, what are you doing all there all day? I want to see. So they would come in and I would teach them some stuff. And especially if it was a one-on-one setting, like I was just teaching them, it was terrible. It was always a mess. If they came and did a class, completely fine. But if it was in a one-on-one setting, it was a fiasco, because they'd end up getting grumpy at me or I'd get grumpy at them, and then we would butt heads, and by the time we left, we'd be grumpy at each other. And so again, that's a problem. And I was talking to one of my friends who is in your situation where he's been training for a long time, and he's with his wife who's been training for a little bit now, and he started doing moves with her. And he said that initially, when they started training one-on-one, it was a mess. But what he said they started doing that seemed to work was they watch instructional videos. So what they would do is they would put in an instructional series and they would break down the move together as students. And so basically they would watch the video and then, you know, they would work it. Obviously he has a little bit more knowledge, so he can tell her if she's doing something right or whatever, but they can watch it together, and it changes the dynamic where instead of him being the teacher and her the student, they're both kind of students, and then they're watching the teacher on the video. And he says that's been perfect. He's been able to train with her. There's no fights, there's no grumpiness, whatever. And so he's been able to do that. And so that might be something useful to you guys. But the thing is I think this comes from the fact that a lot of times with our relationships, there's not a clearly defined boundary anymore, right? Because again, when you are a teacher and a student, there's a boundary. So like the way that I act towards my students and the way they act towards me, there's a clear boundary there. There's a teacher-student relationship. When it's with our significant other, there is no difference. There's no sort of boundary there, right? A lot of times there's no boundaries in some cases, right? And so in those situations, we are more likely to either show some of our loved ones like the most like love and compassion you give to anyone, but we're also able to be grumpy assholes sometimes for things that aren't related to them. I think most of us can relate to situations where we get frustrated or whatever, and we kind of lash out at our significant other. And I found that during these times where I tried to teach someone one-on-one, it was kind of like that. There is an exception. One of my girlfriend now, my girlfriend that I've been together with since like 2014. Her and I, she came into the gym originally as a student, and so we kind of, that relationship was already defined, and so she was already kind of a student. And then when I started teaching her stuff outside of the class, like we've done boxing recently since the quarantine, and done some weight training and stuff like that. I had to show her some stuff. Completely fine. She listens to me with no problem because she respects that sort of teacher dynamic there, and she's used to it, rather than us being sort of just a relationship sort of thing. I hope that makes sense. So one of the things I would say is try to do the videos, instructional videos first. And then a couple other things, and I said this in the email the other day, so again, I wanted to sort of reference these. One of them is don't complain. I know this seems like a big deal, but like from the teacher standpoint and the student standpoint, the teacher, if he's teaching you, should not complain that you can't remember stuff. And likewise, if he's making a correction, don't complain that he's helping you out. From the person that's doing the teaching part, I would say you need to focus on what they're doing right. That's really important. Like as a coach, this is a really big one. You can ruin someone's experience if they come in and you start just focusing on what they're doing wrong, because it just makes them feel stupid, right? They feel like they suck at it, even though it's like, no, they're getting used to it. So instead, encourage them on what they're doing. Like, hey, that was a good job. Do that more. Sort of guide them in the right direction by focusing on the positive stuff that they're doing. That usually helps out. And be patient. That's a big one. Just be patient, because again, with your significant other, we can sometimes not be as patient as we should be. So those are some tips for you, Sonja. So I hope you and your boyfriend continue to do well during this quarantine, and hopefully that information is helpful. Like you said, I would probably stick with the instructional video, see how that goes, and then again, maybe you can do the teacher-student dynamic with them. Just make sure that if you guys train like that during that hour-long time or whatever you're training together, consider yourself not boyfriend and girlfriend, consider yourself like student and teacher. So this way you're able to train more effectively in that situation. Hope that makes sense. And guys, I'll talk to you next time.